Hello. Welcome back to another episode of ICGO DMs. I want to talk today about the real and the Did you see that? You might have seen that. I want to talk today about the real and the absurd. I believe that the real and the absurd are part and parcel, or rather, the absurd exists comfortably and non-contradictively within the real. It's nestled up in there. It's part of reality. Mixing the absurd and the serious, or the absurd and the weighty and stuff that feels really realistic is like probably one of the main identifiers of Bayetha, like one of the main descriptive features of the whole world and every campaign in it. The main city that my campaign started in, it's called Zenatha, named after King Zene and Queen Dagatha, amazing ruling power couple. And they started to really turn this region around and make it very formidable to the rest of the Commonwealth. From the time we started our first session, about 15 years ago, something happened between them. There was a weird relational schism, like some crazy falling out, but no one knows the actual details of it. They had a massive split, but neither of them wanted to let off ruling the city. So they sunk the whole city and province in massive debt, reconstituting the entire city around this huge chasm that runs through the center of the city with this big river down below that empties into the Bay of Storms. And they reorganized the entire city around this chasm, so you have the King's District and the Queen's District. And, that I'll get into later,
the Jester's District.
The Queen's District and the King's District do not communicate with each other. You need papers and very distinct reasons for being able to cross the chasm into the other district. The King's District is very hyper-masculine, hunting and sports and athletics and drinking and carousing. And the Queen's District is doilies and floral print and perfume and everything's very delicate and sensitive. So session one. The opening session basically took place on the summer solstice when the wind has died down and everything is just like humid and hot and desperate. And in this awful heat stroke inducing environment with the stink of the city just having nothing to sweep it away, Peace Day is forced to occur under the watchful eye of the Queen's Guard and the King's Guard. Everyone basically goes around super happy. Everyone's friends with everyone. Even if you have enemies, like you have to show that you love them and reconcile with them. And there's these ridiculous games like smiling contests, hugging contests. And this builds and builds until at dawn, the king and queen will each raise their own flag. And it will, I think, either be white, for they are ready. They've been convinced by the goodwill of their people to reconcile. And if they raise the red flag, it's like, I'm still angry, we're not reconciling. Every single year for the last 15 years, they both raise a red flag. At that point, inevitably, every single year, the city breaks into insane riots. And so it ends with like crazy chaos, anarchy, that eventually gets quelled and subdued, and then everyone goes back to normal, living normal lives in this absurd city. So that's this absurd environment that they've been introduced into, and yet as they've been going on gradually over these 8 or 9 years, they've discovered that there are like heavy, deep things going on underneath all of this absurdity. There's nothing ultimately that will be left purely absurd. Everything ultimately has a real, tangible, sobering core to it, I believe. Everything. And that sobering doesn't always mean just it takes the fun out of everything, but it's like there's terra firma even under the quicksand and the ephemeral feeling stuff and the esoteric stuff. Like ultimately, there is terra firma under everything. And that's the feeling that you get the longer you play in Bayetha. But the biggest place where I like to explore the absurd is in one-shots. Some of the one-shots are very serious, and some of them really go off the rails in an intentional way. I had a one-shot that I threw together a couple hours before we played. Like, dude, what if we did a one-shot tonight? And just thought, like, where would it be fun to play? And we basically ended up playing in this jungle region in Bayetha called Azonia. Thick jungle with these crazy drops and these winding rivers. Very Indiana Jones. I gave them the context of you've been sent here by this guy to collect this artifact, and this is what you're looking for, this is how long you've been here, and we pick up with them crashing through the jungle, and they're running, and arrows and blow darts are flying past them, and they can hear the yips of these savage natives behind them. So they're running through, and at one point, my brother-in-law is playing as one of the PCs in this, and he's this very hefty wizard named Gale who thinks that he's like the absolute Prince Charming Chris Hemsworth of the world. And there's two hilarious things that he did. One, he turns around. I have no idea why this is the case, but he tried to create a banana, an illusion of a banana, to stop the savages chasing them. He creates this illusion. I tell him, roll a percentage dice, a 100 percentile and a 10 percentile, so then we'll get the full number. I was very new at this time. He rolled 0 on the 100 percentile dice, which is 100%. But then he rolled the 10 percentile. And so if you get anything other than a 0 on the 10 percentile, it's not 100%. He rolled a 4 on the 10 die. So that would be 4%. So I said the percentage is going to be the size of banana that you can conjure. At the time, I thought it was 104% size. Now, 104% or 104 times the size of a banana, 104 times. Still not probably as big as I made this banana. We called it Banana Mountain. It was a huge banana. And he created this huge illusion, flared up, and he's looking at it like, that'll stop him. And suddenly, as he's looking, a dart flies through, an arrow flies through, and hits him in the chest. Ah! He lets out the scream, and he keeps running away. And then they get to this drop where they have to drop. I could have sworn I said like 1,000. Maybe it was like 100 or a few hundred feet, but whatever it was, like, it was an absurd distance. So they jump, and for Gale, he said he jumps and he imagines that he's doing like this perfect swan dive, and I had him roll something for it, like athletics or performance, probably athletics, or acrobatics. I had him roll, and he thought he was like doing this perfect swan dive with this like beautiful expression on his face, but in fact, his like shapeless form with all of his big robes just flapping around, he's just like falling, but his face is like just looks angelic, like this beatific, enlightened expression on his face, while his body just whoosh, and then slap onto the water. Should have had him take fall damage. That doesn't matter. The world is full of absurd occurrences. Some of them are freak accidents or freak moments, like positive moments. Some of them are like personality quirks and blind spots in people where you're like, how do you not see this? Some of them are flukes and moments of big battles or big business deals, or moments that happen on a large scale, on a micro scale, anywhere in between. It's like the world is full of these strange things. And even in science, there's like, we still don't know why this happens. That has enabled me to allow for a lot of silliness in Beatha while still giving it a sense of weight and heavy reality. It's all real. That's the point. It's all real. God has used shock throughout Scripture to wake people up in the moment. Shock value. And I think that the absurd provides, among its other benefits, shock value. To make someone who starts to think that they're starting to become in control of things, to throw them an illogicality that is like, it shakes them and wakes them. Orthodoxy. Where is it? I don't know if I have my orthodoxy book, but basically, there's something, I mean, orthodoxy has a lot of good stuff to say on this topic, but there's something in orthodoxy where he talks about a tree bears apples each season. So you conclude that there's some law that this tree must always bear apples. But if next season or if tomorrow it starts to like produce shoes, what will you do then? But it always stuck with me in that idea of like, keep your sense of wonder, keep your sense of curiosity, never just fall asleep and go hypothermic and rest on your laurels and think, oh, I know all this. It's elementary, dear Watson. Which even Sherlock had a massive propensity for wonder in the original books. And he said like, there but for the grace of God go I. He had a sense of compassion and like, I only know the life that I know, and I can piece a lot of things together, but like, there but for the grace of God go I could be in his situation, I could be in her situation, and he understands like, all I have is to live the life that has been set before me. And that's what I want to cultivate in characters. That's why I want to use the absurd and mix it with the somber and the genuine and sincere, and make the absurd sincere, so that there's never a moment where anything feels like a pure troll, where we can chuckle at things and enjoy them on a meta level, but that in-game we have to take them seriously, and that you get rewarded for taking them seriously. And it breaks someone up from the routine and the mundane, and it puts them in a state where they could potentially start thinking about things differently, where they could see and feel things differently, see and feel things that they've never seen and felt before, that they could begin to interact in a way with reality that they don't often get the chance to interact with because their life is so ordered and so consistent and so safe and so hidden. And now suddenly you're thrust into this absurd environment, and then you try and address it in a way that would control the situation, and that doesn't work. And you try and address it again, and that doesn't work. And eventually, hopefully, you're met with some success in grappling with the situation, but that it throws you into this state of, I don't know if this is the phrase necessarily, but nonlinear processing, where now you're almost thrown into like a subconscious or right brain state where things don't just immediately, perfectly, and absolutely make sense, which things never actually do. To that totalitarian degree, that absolute degree, things don't actually make that much sense. You only think they do. So it's good to get into environments where suddenly it's like, nothing makes sense anymore. And then to be brought back to reality, to the place of the world that you understand as you understand it. It helps to allow the absurd. It also allows a spirit of playfulness. It keeps things from getting too heavy, too weighty, where everything is all about like, you need to make the right decision. There's certain times where it's like, you couldn't have made the right decision, or like, there was no way you could have known this. And it just breaks it. I just want to set people free, man. And absurdity and shock, these are tools in the tool belt of the storyteller to help unmoor people and set them loose and help them discover, help them find new lands. Like they've been clinging to one rock. This is what I know. This is what I know. And you're trying to shake it. It's like, what if the rock didn't exist anymore? And it just turns to sand. That's never happened before. And now suddenly they're just adrift in the sea. And what if a ship comes and picks them up? What if a whale comes and they grab onto it? What if suddenly they realize that all this time they've been able to breathe water? What if they realize that all this time they've been able to fly? Like, what will it reveal in this wondrous world the moment you just allow the rules to bend or blip or break for a split second even? And suddenly, here they are in a totally new reality. A new understanding of reality that encompasses and deeper identifies and explains the world as they have previously understood it. And this is all just in a fantasy world. It's not, I don't want absurdity to be an excuse for being a crappy storyteller. Don't take yourself too seriously, and don't take yourself too lightly. Don't take yourself too lightly out of insecurity. Don't go to absurdity to cover up insecurity. Handle it. Be in charge of it. You are its master. And don't avoid absurdity thinking that everything has to be very serious and logical and linear, because life is not that way. Let yourself embrace both and let yourself go as a DM and discover where it leads you, and as a player. I could go on. But for now, all I'll say is, ad vitam et gloriam Dei. God bless. Lordy.